I got to be honest, and I've said this for a while. I'm not I'm not as thrilled with Sean McVay as everybody else in this league. So I start to ask myself, I try not to be closed-minded. I say, what am I missing? What am I missing that everybody else loves? Because he's become really the new Andy Reid.
Welcome back to Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We're going to be here for a while now. After a Super Bowl respite, a couple days before, a couple days after. Glad to be back here on Birds 365 with my partner, John McMullen. J-Mac, how was your Super Bowl pre- and post-week?
Well, I wish I could have told you I jetted off to the south of France or even Key West, but I finally got hit. I finally got hit with a cold, but it's a non-COVID illness. So I didn't even know those existed anymore, Jody, but here we are. But it's not that bad.
Good to hear you're doing all right. And what's probably contributing to it is this friggin' wacky weather. There's snow all over my yard 2 days ago. Now it's all gone. I got the dog out this morning. It's already like 55 degrees. How the hell can you keep from getting sick at this time of the year with the weather going up?
It's going to be in the 60s today. Yeah, and then it's snow. You're right. It is wacky. So that's this time of year. So, but we're back, and that's the positive part. And I don't know what that was, but I mean, Birds 365, back 365, and we'll talk. And by the way, I got to bring this up. Our long local nightmare is over locally. You've been still doing it. That's Ben Simmons is out of town, I want to mention that. And now we're back in draft mode, combine mode. The combine starts March 1st. The new league year is March 16th. So that's the beauty of the NFL. They get right back into it. So we start talking about free agency. We'll get into the draft. NFL, man, they know what they're doing with the calendar. I've been saying it for years.
Before we look ahead, because you're right, we're now 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away, 11 days away from the start of the combine and less than a month away from the beginning of the NFL season. Before we look ahead, let's look back. Super Bowl Sunday. Congrats to the Los Angeles Rams. They win their first ever LA title. They won one with Coach Dick Vermeil. Congratulations to him for the well-deserved honor of being.
By the way, did St. Louis get mentioned? They clearly did not want to use the term St. Louis with the Rams because
by the way, and we're tying a bunch of things together. The other night after the Sixers, Suns, James Harden got their asses handed to them by the Boston Celtics by almost 50 points. They interviewed Jason Tatum after the game, who had an unbelievable game, and said, did you enjoy the Super Bowl? He said, congrats to the St. Louis Rams. He was going there. The NFL might not go there, but Jason Tatum did, and I just did. Yeah, because it's Dick Vermeil, and he just made it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, so I'm going to give him a nod. The Los Angeles Rams won the Super Bowl. And it was kind of typical of this season, John, in the fact that we were 30 seconds away from the end of the game and it had yet to be decided because the Bengals had the ball and were on the Rams side of the field and came up short. Aaron Donald making a big play and Burrow had to throw a ill-advised pass that fell incomplete on fourth down. So it was much like the rest of the postseason. Great because it hung in the balance till the very last minute. But the level of play, other than a couple of individuals, Aaron Donald, as previously mentioned, Cooper Kupp, the MVP, it was a blasé Super Bowl for me. How about for you?
I think it was fine. I think you're right in the modern NFL, and I think we ended the season with 7 consecutive one-possession games that essentially came down to the last play. We had all those walk-offs in a row, but even the games that weren't walk-offs, the team behind had a chance to win it, big fourth down stop. So I think that drama is exciting. I do think that 4th and 1 kind of snuck up on people. I don't know if it was the broadcast or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is the game right here at 4th and 1. And Aaron Donald made the big play. And you mentioned Joe Burrow. I'll tell you what, he almost completed that stinking thing. And if it was a better running back who could catch the ball a little bit better than P-Ryan, who knows? They convert that. Who knows what happens? I don't think that the opponents coming into the game is probably not the sexiest group of opponents. Los Angeles, for the market size, I mean, you saw with the parade yesterday, Jody. Nobody cares in Los Angeles about professional football. The NFL, obviously, because of the weather, and the weather was great and all that kind of stuff, and building the campus for NFL media with the stadium, spending $5 billion. They want a presence in that market, but it's not a great football market. And then the Cincinnati Bengals are the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's not exactly a high-profile market. Joe Burrow's still a young player. Maybe 10 years from now when he develops into a consistent superstar quarterback, maybe that narrative will change. But I think that coming into the game, the opponents were less than overwhelming, and I think that's where probably the game itself, though. I mean, anytime you're that late in the game, 4th and 1, that's pretty good. I can't complain about that part of it.
Right. As I said, the fact that it went to 59-30 before the game was decided, it can only be so bad. But how many plays from that game are you going to remember 10 years from now?
I'll remember the Matthew Stafford throw that everybody made a big deal, the no-look throw. Aaron Donald making the play at the end of the game, because that's one of the greatest players of the generation, arguably the best defensive player of the generation. Look, Cooper Kupp, I think that game markedly changed, Jody, when Odell Beckham went down, because people kind of forget, Robert Woods has been gone. He's been out for a while, basically since they got OBJ. Tyler Higbee's their second best receiver. He was out. So the Rams were down to using Ben Skoranek, and who was the third receiver on Notre Dame last year, and Van Jefferson, who probably should have stepped up a little bit more, but he had a lot of stuff. People saw that. His wife gave birth after the game. He had a lot on his mind. The Rams were down to fumes when it came to their playmakers, and they couldn't run the ball.
Couldn't run the ball at all. Why did they? Why? I know we like the second guess coaches as they coach in the Super Bowl, but McVay kept, not the fact that he ran the ball, he kept running Akers. Akers is averaging 1 yard per carry. 1 yard per carry, and he keeps feeding them. When they get Henderson back, when they got Sony Michel sitting on the bench, what the hell's he? I know that Cam Akers is probably their lead back going into next year. Who cares? It's a Super Bowl. The only thing you should be worried about is winning this game. And he kept riding Cam Akers, which I couldn't understand.
Yeah, and the same thing with Zach Taylor. And, why is Joe Mixon not on the field? You can always look at the coaching, and we talk, back to the NFC Championship game, which I thought wasn't the best game for Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, to be honest, but they were in the game. And I think it was Mike Tanier who said it, so I'll give him a shout out when he was on the show before we went on vacation. He's like, maybe we put too much emphasis on in the moment, in that coaching is more about preparation and more about getting your team prepared during the week. I tend to agree with him, but I know why people get upset in the moment. I see you shaking your head. I get it.
I would be one of them.
But I do think, they're in that game. So I'm sitting there, and I even asked myself, I'm sitting there, and this was after the NFC Championship game, and I said to myself, and I said on the show, and everybody heard me, I said, man, that was a poorly coached game. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, those guys are there. So, I mean, they're outperforming everybody else. So what am I missing? I don't know. Evidently, I'm missing something because I got to be honest, and I've said this for a while. I'm not I'm not as thrilled with Sean McVay as everybody else in this league. So I start to ask myself. I try not to be closed minded. I say, what am I missing? What am I missing that everybody else loves? Because he's become really the new Andy Reid. And Kevin O'Connell's going to be introduced today in Minnesota. We know last year it was Brandon Staley. Before that, it was Zach Taylor. Before that, it was Matt LaFleur. I always joke, anybody who's ever had a coffee, anybody who's ever given Sean McVay a coffee can get an interview in this league. So I said to myself, what am I missing? And I still say to myself, and that's why I bring up Mike and say, well, that made me think about that. Maybe he's better at the preparation part. Maybe he's better at getting people prepared for the actual game. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there. I was not thrilled with the coaching either, but he's a Super Bowl champion. He's been to 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. He's 36 years old. There's 5 guys that have done that, Jody. 3 of them are in the Hall of Fame already. The 4th is Mike Tomlin, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame when he retires. I mean, it's pretty good.
It is. But here's the way I break it down, different than Mike tenure and or you're suggesting now. You can absolutely critique/criticize a coach for in-the-moment decisions. To me, that separates the really good coaches from the great coaches, is the guys who make the right in-the-moment decisions 75, 80, 85% of the time. And yes, even within that group, there's big calls and then there's gigantic calls. And of course, the bigger the call it is, the more scrutiny it gets, as it should be. You can do that, but then afterward, you can widen back out, zoom back out, and take the 3,000-foot look at it and go, yeah, but he won the Super Bowl. And you're right, the 3,000-foot look becomes the look that sticks. And it should, because you're evaluating an entire season. It doesn't mean that you can't narrow focus and go, what the hell was he thinking about on that play? Sorry, but I know Bengals first-time Super Bowl, 33 years, Zach Taylor, blah, blah. How does he not have Joe Mixon on the field for the final 2 plays of the game? So my JP Ryan gets a carry on 3rd and 1, and then he gets the ball thrown to him on 4th and 1. How is Joe Mixon not in the game? I'm sorry. That's a fair critique of Zach Taylor. Did he get the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl for first time in 33 years? Yes, he did. So that's going to outweigh the couple of mistakes he made in the Super Bowl. But it doesn't mean you can't comment on him. Doesn't mean you can't.
Well, no, I didn't say you can't criticize him. I'm saying I criticized both of them. After the NFC Championship game, I said specifically on this particular program, I said, man, that was a poorly coached game. And then afterward, I said, what am I missing with this guy? What am I missing? Because I'm not thrilled, like everybody else thinks Sean McVay walks on water. And I don't. And I'm like, I don't see it. But he's had more success than just about anybody else over the past 5 years from a coaching perspective. And yeah, the first time he was in the Super Bowl, he got embarrassed by Bill Belichick. But again, we're talking about in the Super Bowl. And then we're talking about playoff runs and double-digit wins. Most of it's talent. I mean, let's be honest. Most of it's talent. Now we got this. I've been on the Matthew Stafford train for a long time, and now we got this discussion: is he a Hall of Fame quarterback? And even I say, no, he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. Slow your roll. I can't believe how easily people give out that honor. They give it to everybody now. They give it to everybody. I mentioned it with the NBA and role players and Robert Horry, and you brought up Andre Iguodala. No. That role players are not Hall of Fame players, period. End of sentence. Matthew Stafford's very good. Matthew Stafford's been very underrated because he was in a bad organization for a lot of years. But then again, look at Joe Burrow. There's nobody more ill-prepared to win in this league than Cincinnati, for people that don't know. Cincinnati has the smallest scouting department in the NFL. They run their organization like Norman Brayman used to run the Eagles, or Leonard Toast used to run the Eagles. Everything's shoestring budget. They can't hire assistants. The Eagles personnel department is 3 times the size of the Cincinnati Bengals. I used to always defend Marvin Lewis because people would make fun of Marvin Lewis because he made the playoffs, but lost in the playoffs.
Won, right.
6 out of 7 years, I think it was. And I said, look at the Bengals before Marvin Lewis and then after Marvin Lewis, and you kind of get a feeling of how good he was. However, now you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And all of a sudden, the shoestring budget of a mess of an organization is in the stinking Super Bowl. So talent outweighs everything.
Here's where your Hall of Fame comparison ties into your coaching comparison. Yeah, you can watch Matthew Stafford make the big play, hit Cooper Kupp, fourth quarter, win a Super Bowl. Oh, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. That's emphasis on in the moment. And then you step back and you take the 3,000-foot look and go, oh, no, he's not quite a Hall of Fame quarterback yet. So the 3,000-foot look is always going to be the bigger one, the more important one, the one we should put more emphasis on. But you can micromanage. You can look at it and go, damn, what the hell was that coach thinking doing that right there at that time? You can do both. What bothers me is when people look at the very narrow focus vote and go, oh, he's a bum if a coach makes a mistake, or, oh, he's a Hall of Famer because he made a big play at a big spot. No. Just that you can give him acknowledgement for making that big play or call him on the carpet for making that bad call, but then make sure you do back up and take a look at the big picture because, yeah, big picture is that Matthew Stafford is not a Hall of Famer yet. Took a significant step in that direction. You got to take a couple more before we get into that one. All right. It is the Mac and Mac guys back here on Birds 365. Glad to be back with you guys. Missed talking football on a day in, day out basis with my partner, Johnny Mac. We will have 2 individuals jump in with us to talk Super Bowl, league year, Eagles, and the like. This is Birds 365, so we get certainly an Eagle slant. We got 2 good Eagle guys scheduled to join us. A little later on in the show, our very own D-Gun from the Eagles postgame show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Going to hop aboard. We know D-Gun has very good relationships with several of the Eagle players. See if he's gotten any postseason conversations yet that may be telling. We got D-Gun up in hour number 2. But first up in hour number 1, we're going to get our buddy Martin Frank up here to talk all things Philadelphia Eagles offseason with John McMullen and Jody McDonald. You've got us here on Birds 365.